All right, so what we're going to start with is adding an individual contacting command. We'll start with adding a contacting command. We'll go over like what custom fields are, how to add them, what custom tags are, a couple ways how to add them, and then we're going to add your contacts. So you're going to start in command, so it's agent.kw.com.
Yeah, all
right, cool. Okay, so let's go to contacts. And up here on the right is where you're going to see the add contact button. It's a fairly self-explanatory form. However, a lot of it is different from eEdge. There's a lot of fields that eEdge doesn't have, and there's also a lot of new fields that you may have not seen before or used before that you're going to have to manually input onto your contacts if you wanted to start using it. So this is how you would add in one contact. You can do it through command. You can also add a contact through Keller. That's part of the beauty of Keller and how it communicates with command. So let's see, full name, email, phone number, all normal. Preferred method of contact, that's something that's kind of new. eEdge doesn't have that. Stage, captured, connected, qualified. That's something that you wanted to start using in the way that you're using command. That's something to keep in mind. Lead source is new. I don't think you can type one in, let's say. Yeah, it's a drop down. Let's try a couple things like that. Okay, so you can't create your own custom lead source. You can choose from this menu. You can create a custom lead source if you put it in on the import sheet, I'm seeing, but we'll look at that later because we'll go through the import sheet of like what eEdges look like, what command looks like, and what comes over. System tags is kind of similar to, what was it? I think it was in eEdge, the contact type in eEdge, but all the contact types that were in eEdge, it's not fully translated in command. Like some of the crossovers, buyer, seller, agent, bought, sold, those are in eEdge, but some of these others do not exist in eEdge, and you can't, the system tags are just the tags that already exist. Custom tags is where you can make something fully outside of this. Like say you wanted a tag to be personal contacts. There isn't a personal contacts one, there's just agents. So you could create, if you don't see a system tag that fits your needs, you can make a custom tag, and it's going to serve kind of the same purpose of just helping you organize and at a moment, like at a glance, understand who your contact is and what they need.
Like so if I put like Main Street open house. Like
that would be a custom tag. Yep, yeah. So and custom tags is almost like a cross between what eEdge's contact types was and also groups, because there isn't groups in command in the same way that there was in eEdge. But custom tags can kind of fill that hole right now. So that's how we're working with it for now. Custom tags is where if you've created any, you'll see them. If you haven't created any, you shouldn't see anything. You should be able to create a custom tag like on the fly as you're inputting an individual contact, but let's test it. Let's just say class. Okay, so with some of these fields, when you start to type in something that isn't there, so if you opened up that drop down and said no options, means that you now need to create a custom tag. So when you start to type in the box, this box, you'll see underneath where it says create and the word that you just typed in. So let's just hit create class. Now I've just created that custom tag for me to use in the future. So in the future, it's going to show on the drop-down menu.
Oh, it'll be there.
Right. So I just created it. Whereas in eEdge, you couldn't create groups from adding a contact. You had to have the group exist already in order to add your contact to it. So that's kind of a nice feature that you can create it on the fly. Of like, okay, this is something new, or I'm inputting someone that I just met, and I want to tag them as my, I don't know, small group, like group, whatever it is. So we just created that custom tag. here's where it starts to get a little finicky, and I'm going to describe it now, but it's going to make more sense when we're looking at the import sheets. Here you see the About section, and then there's this description. This description is kind of what eEdge's Notes section was. What's going to get confusing is on the import, like Command's import sheet, they have About, and then they also have Notes. But Notes shows up as like a timeline note, and I'll show you what that looks like. About shows up as like the notes that you're used to.
Abouts will be in the description.
Yeah, what's in the description and how it'll show in the contact, and I'll show right after this of what it looks like and what the difference is it's going to look up like what you're used to. Is that when you open up your contact card, there's a name, there's a phone number, there's the email, and then there's your notes under the About section. It's just named a little different. And it's kind of confusing because they also have notes, but notes doesn't mean what we think it means. Yeah, a learning curve. The one finicky thing that's been happening with the addresses recently is you have to choose from the drop-down as you start to type it. It's pulling the data in from like Google Maps. So keep that in mind. Just make sure that as you start to type it, choose from the drop-down. Otherwise, you're going to keep typing it, clicking away, and it's going to delete the whole thing, and you're going to go mad. All right. Date of birth has the year, whereas eEdge didn't have the year. Relationships is where we start to see a change in what we're used to with eEdge. eEdge used to like put your secondary contact details underneath of the header contact. So if we had, you know, Caitlin Nichols as a contact and then Dan Nichols as her husband would be within the Caitlin Nichols contact, right? As a secondary contact detail, with Command, you have to separate them. So it would have to be, you know, Caitlin and my husband Dan. So I'd have to have a Caitlin Nichols contact and also a Dan Nichols contact, but I can connect them together under the relationships field. So I can choose spouse, but the contact already has to exist. So let's say that right now I'm putting together the Dan Nichols contact, right? Like this is the contact that I'm adding right now. It's the Dan Nichols contact. I can choose relationship spouse and add myself as Dan Nichols' spouse. But my contact card already exists. Like the Caitlin Nichols contact card already exists. You can't create their contact card from here.
Right.
I'm hoping that that changes in the future, but that's the way that it is right now, so we're just going to work around it for the time being. You can add multiple relationships, so say that you have, you know, Caitlin in here, herself Dan, and then also their son, Everett, like whatever it is. So you can add more relationships, remove them. You can add their social channels if that's relevant to what you're doing. If you have maybe other agents in your database that you want to have their social channels available, it would be a good thing for your contacts to be able to quickly find them, you know, on social media and connect with them in that way. So you can add social channels, the profile ID, let's see, Instagram. So you would put in, like, for Instagram, their handle. For Facebook, the profile ID is usually after, like, facebook.com. And if it's just the person, if they haven't added in their username, so mine's like Caitlin.Nichols7, I think. It's like that little chunk, facebook.com/ and then whatever the name is, or sometimes it's a bunch of numbers. So it's whatever's between facebook.com/ and then the next dash and then all the random characters, it would be that chunk would be their ID.
Oh, that's what you put there?
Yeah, that's what you would put there. All right. They allow you to put in information about their workplace if that's relevant to you, and then they added in this purchase anniversary as important dates. You can add an individual custom field as you're adding in an individual contact. So say that I was adding in a buyer and I wanted to create a custom field of where they're looking, because eEdge has that. eEdge has a field where you can put looking in. We can add a custom field of just one time add it of, all right, as I'm adding this contact, they're a buyer and I want to add a looking in field. You can do that as you're adding in the contact. Then you would just hit create and they would be created. Let's exit out of this. And I want to show, because we were talking about, I think, we were talking about the about section and then what command calls notes. So if I was typing in the contact and where it said description, what used to be for us in eEdge, are notes. This is how you're used to seeing it, is within the contact card, right? So those notes, I would put in the about section so that you're seeing it in the same way that you're used to, depending on the note. What command calls notes is it shows up in the timeline. So, like, I wrote this one as this is a test note created. I think what you would use notes for is talk to on 5/10, not a good time, like contact again in 3 months, whatever that is. It's like a timeline note.
Right.
My worry of you putting the notes of, you know, how they met them, that they have a dog, that they're an Eagles fan, whatever notes you have about your contact, that it would get buried if you put it in this note section.
Right. It would get in the beginning of the whole thing.
It would be all the way at the bottom, and then all the phone calls that you made and all the text messages and all the emails that you send are going to bury it out. And so you can see just notes, like you can filter it to just view notes, but for what we're doing right now, what we're bringing over from eEdge as notes, I would just put it in the about section.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Which is what I use that notes for, is like you put, met at Starbucks.
Right, stuff like that.
This open house looking for this.
Right. Yeah, little
There's
things.
also a looking for section too now.
Well, you can create the custom field if that's what's easier for you. If it's if the way that you operate right now is to put it in the notes section, and that works.
Yeah, about is like a little bio on the person, you know, and then,
Yeah.
and then the notes will be for ongoing notes for each individual
Yeah.
occurrence or something.
Exactly. Like in like a timeline order. If you wanted to be able to attach it to a date, that's where you would put it in commands notes section. About is like
I followed up with them.
Yeah,
You know, like
yeah.
call them on this day. Follow
Right.
up again in a month.
Right, exactly. That would be like your timeline notes. With the about section would be like how I met them, that they have a dog, that they love single family homes, that they like the color blue. I don't know, whatever it is, those types of like contact details.
What about description here? Where would that come up on that card?
So description is what shows up here under about.
Oh, okay.
That's what's confusing, is that they put it under the about header and then they call it description, and then description doesn't show up again. It's just the about.
Well, but then the about also has their birthday, their address, everything.
It like nests under there. So when you're like creating the contact, that's what's under the about section. What you write in the description, so like me, I wrote met at Starbucks. That's what shows up on the about section where it is right now. So that's the difference with that. Let's go over how to create custom fields. So if you go to your name and then settings.
I did already disconnect MailChimp.
Yeah, well, it's not, honestly, it's not that big a deal. Like most people, I'd say 80% of our office, if they have MailChimp, if they just created the free account on a MailChimp, they probably aren't going to be affected by new charges. But it's more of like, it's like if you have more than 2,000 contacts in your database, that's a problem.
Yeah.
They changed the structure of how they're charging you for usage, is that if that person's in your database, they count as a contact towards your 2,000 limit. Whether they're subscribed, unsubscribed, inactive, it doesn't matter. They count as like a contact. It's a little bit funky, so we're just disconnecting it for now while we figure out what this pricing structure means for us, and then we'll figure it out later. All right, so we're in our settings, and we're going to go into custom fields. So right here, custom fields is adding in an extra detail for your contacts when you create a new custom field. So yours, it might say, like, you might have nothing. There may be no results here. And for most people, when you hit on custom fields, this table should be empty. The only reason this came through is because I did like an eEdge import at some point, and it created all these random things.
I have a bunch of things here.
You can delete them all off if you don't need them.
Average price, status, agent, time frame.
That's from an eEdge import.
And that's it.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, there's like another 15. Anniversary, category, contact, subtype. So maybe delete them all then?
Yeah, I mean, check your contact records that are already in command before you delete it, if it's going to mess something up. I don't know if you're keeping any of the contacts you already have in command.
I don't know if I have any.
All right.
Oh, wait. All right. Oh, yeah, these are all new. These are all new ones that I generated from Facebook.
Oh.
So Facebook it imported my Facebook.
Oh, okay.
And that's all I have here. My leads that I got from Facebook.
Then leave it.
That's for pricing, I think, right?
Yeah. If you turned it on, then yeah.
Okay.
Leave it for now. Look through your contact records first before you're deleting off custom fields in case it's going to affect how that contact is shown. So let's go over create a new custom field. So as an example, if you wanted to create a custom field that you're going to use moving forward on most of your contacts, let's say, I like this example, favorite sports team. I think that that's a good example. So we would put favorite sports team. You choose the type, so you can create like a drop-down menu. It can be like a checkbox. It can be a number, a text field, a URL. We're going to do just a text field because for this it's going to be us typing in, like Eagles, Phillies, whatever.
So you can custom default?
Yeah, if you say default, and I'll show you what it looks like, it's going to show every single time when you add a new contact. If you don't choose default, it's only going to show up, like, you'll have to go into the contact record to see it. It's a little bit weird. So let's hit create on this one. And I'm going to go back to contacts. Oops. And then we're going to hit add contact. So we scroll all the way to the bottom. It didn't do it. Maybe it's somewhere in here. Hold on.
Okay. That last one paper is
Bill. Hold on. Well, it should show right here. But for whatever reason, it did not catch up yet. Let me see. Oh, yeah. No, I didn't choose it as default. Let's go back and draw that again. Yes. Come on. Alright, well, it's taking its time. It's thinking. Let me refresh and see if it does anything. Yes.
Man, he's got a bad boy. Gotta stay in class after class. He would be like the guy in the back with spitballs. Oh, well, yeah, maybe. Could have been at some point.
Okay, we finally got it to work. Okay, so if you check that make default custom field, every time you add an individual contact by hitting this add contact button on your contact page, you see how it shows up down here? Mm-hmm. So every single one that you check with that box is always going to show up when you're creating an individual contact. So let's go back to settings with custom fields. Another example of a custom field that you could create would be the looking in, which you talked about, because eEdge is going to have that information, but Command does not have that field. So you could create it if you wanted to keep track of that.
So the ones that are here already, average price, standard, median, time frame, those will all be in every time I go to create a contact?
Only if they say, under this default tab, only if they say default yes.
Oh, okay, they all say no.
So you can go to this little pencil over here,
Yes.
and when you hit edit, you can hit make custom fields. And if you wanted to change how it looked to make it not be this underscore, you could. So you can do that with all of those so that they'll always show up when you're creating that add contact. So really, what your use for custom fields is going to start to become clearer as you're analyzing your database and bringing it over, where you're going to be like, I do want that information. Where am I going to put it? So that's custom fields. That's how we're going to create the custom fields. Let's go to custom tags. There's going to be a couple ways for you to create custom tags. One is going to be to come to your settings here, hit custom tags, and create a new tag. That's going to be one way. When you create a new tag, I did the class one, but let's just do class 2.
Oh, they're color coded.
You can color code them. So when you're creating it, you can color code it, or you can take one that's already created, hit this little edit button. Like if you have a bunch that you added in, you can go back and color code them. So you can always go back and edit them. The second way for you to create a custom field is going to be on the import. So, or sorry, custom tag, there's too many customs. The second way for you to create a custom tag is going to be on the import. You can type it in, and it will automatically create it and put it attached to your contact. So let's get into that a little bit of bringing in your contacts. I'm going to minimize this. Okay, I'm going to open up eEdge, which you use, right, is eEdge?
No, Leisner, but I use eEdge for my CRM.
Yeah, for your contacts. So, are all of your contacts grouped together?
Yeah.
They all have group. Okay, it's going to be the easiest to take them out group by group. So, if you get into your eEdge and you go to contacts, and it's going to be import export contacts. Under the export tab is where you can choose. I would do one group at a time. Do you have in your database, do you have contacts that are a part of multiple groups? Probably.
Probably.
Okay.
Like there's like a main group that has everyone.
Okay.
And there's like my new ads and then my former, people that I've known.
Yeah. So what's gonna be the cleanest is to export them.
Most important are my new ads. Those are the people that I've, generated since I've been here. They're not.
Yeah.
I met them through this business or somehow generated a lead from them.
Yeah. So it would make most sense to export them group by group, and then create a master spreadsheet as you're working, because Command won't recognize duplicates. So you're going to have to weed that out in advance. And the easiest way that we're going to be able to do that is to have them all in one big spreadsheet where we can highlight the duplicates with Excel or Google Sheets.
I'll have two contacts for one person.
Right, and so we want to avoid that, because otherwise you can have the same contact in there 4 times, and there's
getting 2 emails, 4 emails.
Right, and there's no way to merge them. So it would be better if we weeded it out prior to importing them to Command, and it won't take too long. We can, do you have Microsoft Office on your computer?
No, I use Google Drive.
Okay, so we can do it with Google Sheets too. Let's do this. Okay. Pause for 1 minute. I saved a couple spreadsheets on the public drive, which is not on here. So let me send this to myself.
So should I import any of these yet, or should we do the spreadsheet first?
Export your first group. Do it in order, and then choose all types, because it's going to tag them all anyway. Or choose your group and then contact status, choose all.
Oh, okay.
Because then it'll label the status of every single contact, but you're still pulling out everyone in that group. Let's do this.
All right, so now it's just the CSV.
Right, so it's going to bring it into the CSV, but we're going to have to bring that into Google Sheets for you. There's the download.
Yeah.
And if you log into your email and then go to your Google Drive, and we'll bring it in.
All right, so in the Drive.
Okay. So you can drag that upload. I would put them all in a folder.
Yeah, right now I just put it in. real estate folder in my drive.
Okay, yeah, I would put like create a separate folder of like EH exports.
Okay.
So you can put them all in one place. It's going to make your life a little bit easier. Because otherwise you're going to be searching in too many places trying to find them. They're all named so similar. I would rename it too, like the group name. Export. So what group did you export?
New ads.
I would rename that sheet.
No, my lawyer, she said 790. Oh, I just walked in there and had it. You know, it's just a matter of I know, but yeah, Doyle's coming again here. And it was January 30th, so things will be fine.
Alright, so you've renamed the spreadsheet.
Did you need anything in signature line? Is there something you need? Yeah, just the, but you don't have a
Now open it with Google Sheets.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah.
Oh, yeah, do I read that?
Alright, so the second thing that you're going to want to do, and I'll do this over here while this is loading. Do you still have Command open? Okay. So in Command, if you go to Contacts, and there's this Import button, hit Import, and we're going to hit this Download button to download the command Import CSV. And it should come down at the bottom.
I just drag and drop that one into it. Then
Put that into your Google Drive. Put that in the same Google Drive folder that you have, because if you don't have Microsoft Office, that's the only way that we're going to be able to work out of it, is in Google Sheets. So drag that into that same folder, rename it as Command Import so that we know what we're looking at, because otherwise we're going to get really lost.
So you're saying, can you repeat that?
Yeah, so take, and you hit that download.
It's not, I tried dragging it up here, it didn't work.
No, go to your drive. So go to in your, yeah, get that back. So we want to drag it.
That was ironic, but it's right here. So.
Yeah, no, that's for the ES one.
Okay, let me go
Now
out.
they're going to get, just give it a second.
So how do I, you know what else I'm finding is like this here is not in here. Like I opened this as a Google Sheet, but then it's here, and it won't be in the folder now.
You might have to move it. It might have.
Doesn't.
It's not going to. You might have to go to your drive. If you go to your My Drive, it might be in there. Or like Recent. So this, actually, if you have it open, if you hit this folder at the top,
Oh, so you can put it in the folder.
yeah, so it's in there, you just need to refresh the page. So it's in there already in the EH context, so in your drive, if you hit refresh, there's go into the real estate folder.
Okay, so she'll be calling you.
And like where you had it, or where you thought that you were putting it. The real estate, and then you were doing like EH.
I did, she just needed all the source.
There it is.
Oh, okay.
That's a sheet, and you can get rid of this one now.
So you don't even keep the original because I don't use Microsoft anymore.
Right, so the original is keeping it as a Microsoft file just in your drive. The second one's saving it as a Google Sheet.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Like the second one's converting it to a Google Sheet so you can
Yeah.
use it in Drive. The first one's saving it as like a dot XL whatever file.
The problem I've had though is like what we just did. Like when I open the CSV into a Google Sheet, I can't find it in a folder then.
So when you have it open, at the top you'll see that little folder icon. That's always what I do because otherwise I'll spend all day trying to find it.
Yep.
So the first thing that I do is always organize it so I don't get lost. So try to make that a habit of like when you open it, hit the folder to make sure it's going to the right place that you want it to be.
And then delete the CSV file.
Yeah, you can delete the first file.
Okay.
The one that, the Google Sheets one or the Google Docs one, you should see like a preview of the sheet. The one that's being saved as a Word document or an Excel document is the icon's going to look different. It's going to say like .csv, and you shouldn't see like any preview in the box.
Okay.
So you want to keep the one that's saved as a sheet. So the sheet one's like the little green box with the cross, or the doc is like the little blue box with like the white line. You want to save that one, and then get rid of the other one, because you'll get confused of like, which one am I opening, and then you'll resave it like 4 times.
Also, like, got unnecessary things in your folders, you know?
Right, so like I always clean it up.
All right, so now I have both of these. Now,
so what we're going to start doing, and I'm going to bring this over.
Import.
Well, we have to now get all of the things from the EEdge spreadsheet to the command spreadsheet. So it's going to be a little bit of a process.
Okay.
Let me bring this over.
Morning, Wendy.
And what I'll do is, I have a handout, because this is going to help.
Love your handout.
I know. So what I did, this is from KW, and then I kind of modified it a little bit. They created a chart of the fields. It starts with the fields that are in the command spreadsheet, and then it compares it to what the matching field in EEdge is. So the blue column is all the command fields that you'll see in the import spreadsheet. The red column is the ones that column matches up to in EEdge. And then the notes will say, like, this doesn't exist with command, or, you know, sometimes I put in a little something. Like, EEdge does not have an about field. Command's about field is similar to EEdge's notes field. I know this gets really confusing. And then the last page of this, so it goes through, like, every single column that you're going to see on command's import sheet. The last page is going to be some of the extra little random ones that were in the EEdge spreadsheet that they didn't talk about at all. So things like how we're going to handle secondary contact info, how we're going to handle contact type, how we're going to handle the looking in, custom tags, stuff like that. So let me open up.
Yeah, Heather's going to be here in about 5 minutes for coaching.
Yeah.
Sorry. But this will at least get me right now how to do this.
Yeah, I'll try to walk you through as far as we can go. Okay, where's my Gmail? Let me change it. Let me open these up in Drive for you. So I have, I'll open this in Sheets. This is my sample sheet of what the EEdge export looks like. And let me open up this one. And then this is what, let me split these off. So this is my EEdge export sheet. Let me try to get them a little bit closer together. And then this one is going to be what the command import sheet looks like. Throwing out a lot of words. Let's go here. Okay. So we have it side by side.
They're both Google Drive, though.
I have them both in my Google Drive just because I don't think Trish has Microsoft Office on her computer, so we're going to work out a Drive. If the people that have Microsoft Office, you can just work out of Excel. I'm going to show, I'm going to send tutorial videos of the way to highlight your duplicates in both Google Sheets and in Excel, but let's do this real fast. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to export by group, which is what you did. So let's just say this is the first group that I exported. You're going to go basically copy and paste into the command sheet for every field that matches up exactly. As you're starting to move through your e-edge sheet, you're going to notice that there's some that are in the e-edge sheet that aren't in the command sheet. So you're going to have to figure out some sort of workaround. So an example would be the looking in field. What I would do is put it in the about section so that I can go in later to all those contacts and move it to a custom field. Or it can stay in the about section. But you're going to have to find a way to keep those contacts. So you will copy. Let's just see if I can right-click copy. And you're going to want to make sure that when you're copying the data that you're not copying the header, the first line. So like the lines that say first name, last name, phone number, do not copy that line. Just copy the data, your contacts.
It's like it's also copying the number next to the contact?
It will just highlight it. So copy, and then you're going to hit paste.
Now I'm just doing one row. I can't do like the whole sheet?
No, do one at a time because it's going to be in different places.
Okay.
So do one at a time, and that way you can move through slowly and make sure you're not missing anything. So, you know, first name, last name, phone number, email, all that stuff's easy stuff. Looking in is where I would put it into your about section so that you can choose what you're going to do with it later.
You're just doing the first name now, right?
Just first name. Okay.
I got that highlighted.
Let's move to, let's see, we're in status. So status doesn't translate, that's another one, like, so status doesn't translate to command. So you have to create, you're going to have to either create a custom tag or use a system tag or create a custom field for the status if that's important. If you use the status as your way of seeing if they're a warm lead, a hot lead, you know, a cold, you're going to have to figure out where you're going to save that because there isn't a translation on the command spreadsheet. So let's hit copy. So as an example, let's say for some of them, if the status is like, I don't remember the ones from eEdge. One of them's like cold. If there's a system tag that applies, you'll hit yes next to the contacts that it applies for. If there's not a system tag that applies, put it in the about section so that you can tag it later. Or, let's just say as an example, all these are leads in my spreadsheet. Maybe I want my leads to be so clearly labeled that they have a custom tag that's bright yellow, so I know that those are the people that I'm paying attention to. I can put this, so I just copied the statuses. If I want all my statuses to now be custom tags, I can paste them all in, and it will automatically create this as a custom tag. And then I can go back and change the color.
So how come you're putting it from one Google Drive sheet into another?
So this one is the eEdge data that I'm taking.
Right.
This one is the command template that command understands to be able to bring the data in. You can't take this spreadsheet, the eEdge spreadsheet, and just put it into command. It can't read it. The fields are different. So it can only read its own spreadsheet, so you have to move all the data pieces to the command. We downloaded it from command.
Right.
So we went to, I don't even know where command went.
I have my exports, like the one on the left. You know, how did you get the one on the right?
So what you're going to want to do is open up, let me move this. So we had taken from command the import and hitting download to take that. For us, we had to put it into Google Drive in order to see it. If you open it up in either Excel or Google Drive, it'll be easier for you to open it up side by side.
No, but
So,
where did you get that sheet, the format? Is that just
so we opened yours in your Google Drive. Go to your Drive.
this the export one?
Yeah. So,
Just a new sheet? Is that all you're doing?
oh, we never downloaded it. So go back to Command, hit Import, and download. So that's going to be your Command Import sheet. So go to your Drive. That's all right. The learning group. Go to Drive. Oh, it's fun. But where does it usually go to your downloads?
Yeah.
You can just download it again. Hit download. When you open it up, it makes it disappear. So go to your Drive. Drag that and drop it here. Okay. If you open it, you can, open with Google Sheets. And then you can delete the other one. So like refresh the page, make sure that it's here. There it is. So you want to delete this one.
Okay, so then I just open like you're doing. You open one thing.
So here's this one. Rename this one. Go, yeah, I do have it open. So rename it here. So name it Command, Import Template, whatever it is that you wanted to call it. And then hit that add 1,000 rows at the bottom, because otherwise you're not going to be able to work, so you just hit that add. There you go. Now you have to scroll all the way to the top again, but now I would open it up side by side and start copying and pasting. Where you're going to have to make decisions and where the copy paste isn't going to work as well, and you might have to work contact by contact, is your groups.
Right.
So like all of these came from one singular group. Your group name was New Ads, right? So if you have more than one thing in the custom tags field, we want to tag those groups. So under this custom tags column, we're going to hit comma. If you separate them by a comma, so I already have something in my tags. If I separate by a comma, I'm going to put what my group is too. But I have to do it one by one, or if all of these were new ads, I can drag the little square at the top one. Let me do that again. I can drag the little square at the top one down and make it apply to all of them. If I wanted to tag every single one of them the same thing, I can do that. Otherwise, I have to move through and edit each cell individually. So it's going to be a little bit of process, and it's going to be easier to move in small chunks with each group. Do one group at a time and bring it over.
All right, so yeah, I got that. I got the first names in there, so I got that part.
Yeah, and I'll send out afterwards, I'm going to send out 2 tutorials. One's going to be for Google Sheets and one's going to be for Excel of how to highlight duplicates so you can delete them and merge them together yourself. All right, let me close out of all this so that Heather can start long.